What's up, everybody? So I was just moved to read you something and then share my experience with it, because this has to do with forgiveness, and especially with family members, friends. I'm even hearing long distance friends. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to read this. Some of you may even recognize the passage, but here it goes. Perhaps the best thing of all for me is to remember that my serenity is inversely proportional to my expectations. Okay, perhaps the best thing of all for me is to remember that my serenity is inversely proportional to my expectations. The higher my expectations of Max, who was this person's wife, okay, the higher my expectations of Max and other people are, the lower is my serenity. I can watch my serenity level rise when I discard my expectations, but then my rights try to move in, and they too can force my serenity level down. I have to discard my rights as well as my expectations by asking myself, how important is it really? How important is it compared to my serenity, my emotional sobriety? And when I place more value on my serenity and sobriety than on anything else, I can maintain them at a higher level, at least for the time being. Acceptance is the key to my relationship with God today. I never just sit and do nothing while waiting for Him to tell me what to do. Rather, I do whatever is in front of me to be done, and I leave the results up to Him. However it turns out, that's God's will for me. I must keep my magic, magnifying mind on my acceptance and off my expectations, for my serenity is directly proportional to my level of acceptance. When I remember this, I can see I've never had it so good. Thank God. Okay, so right before my guides told me to share this with you guys, I drew a card for myself, and it was the Mother Mary, and it was basically had a let me just find it, and it was about mother healing. It says, it was this one: love and peace. Let go of the need to be right. Choose peace. Mother healing is possible at this time. So maybe some of you are healing a relationship with your mother, or maybe the lack of a relationship with your mother, and maybe it's left like some sort of void within you, and it's kind of possibly, probably more than likely, affecting the way that you show up in life and even mother your own children, or how you show up, how you receive love. That's what I'm hearing. How you give and receive love. Okay. But what stuck out to me was let go of the need to be right. Okay. And then, because when I think about it in relation to my mother and my relationship with my mother, this is it's a very touchy subject. I go through waves, ups and downs in regards to my relationship with my mother. And, to me, I am not close to my mother, and I've never been close to my mother, but I feel that she has a completely different perspective of that, and I'm not really quite sure why. But, we see our relationship from two different perspectives completely. And, it's not to say that I'm right or she's wrong. For me, there are times when I feel justified in what I want from her. But then I also see how that's just like my own expectations, and it's causing my own grief. Something that's happened along my spiritual path is I've been learning how to love people where they're at, for who they are. Where that has been the most trying is with my mother. And probably because I still have expectations of her as a mother, because I know how I show up for my children, And but then I get all, it's like my own judgment, and who am I? And then I have to go back to myself, like, who am I to judge? I'm not anybody to judge, I understand. It's easy for me to help someone in need, or I see, like, if I see somebody struggling with some sort of addiction, because I've dealt with addiction, it's easy for me to show compassion. Where it's been most difficult to show compassion is with my mother. And that has been a very, it's just been very difficult, and there are times where it goes in waves, and the waves are shorter and shorter. I have come to the point of exhaustion in regards to that relationship, because I do understand that what I want is what I want. And again, it's also my expectations. And, drawing this card today and then being guided to read this, I must keep my magic magnifying mind on my acceptance and off my expectations. I mean, that's it right there, my magic magnifying mind. Because in my mind, that's like blowing something out of its proportion, right? It's like understanding that, or my view says, she should know, she should see, she should do this, whatever. And then and then it says my magic man on my acceptance, I need to keep my magic magnifying mind on my acceptance of her for where she's at. Because me, when I do place my expectations, and it just brings up all this like anger and anxiety towards my mother, and like my rights moving in, and it's all based on these expectations of what I want from her and how I wish she could show up in my life, and it's not to say that the way that she shows up is wrong or bad or whatever. It's just not the way that I would want my mother to show up, but that's just the way my mother shows up, and that's on me if I can't accept that. It's not her fault. She's showing up the best that she possibly can, and it's always me, right? It's never them. When I find myself pointing my finger at other people, I always have to look at myself, because, it's just like that saying. They say when you point your finger at somebody, there's 3 more pointing back at you. So self-evaluation, I'm not saying that I'm all gung-ho and I'm going to like march out and, be daughter of the year or whatever now, but I'm just saying that I'm constantly evaluating the way that I show up, and I feel like there might be others of you out there, possibly dealing with issues with your mother. Okay. For me, I feel like, but it's just me being judgmental. Like, just because I choose to show up the way I do as a mother doesn't mean everybody has to show up that way, and who's to say the way I show up is right, Anyway, at the core, we're all the same. And when I can get my head out of my ass long enough to remember it's about acceptance and not my expectations, and that when I'm irritated or upset, it's because my expectations of somebody aren't being met. Like, it's always on me. It's never about them. Like, I can't control anybody else or the way that they show up in life. All I can do is show up. It says, I have to disregard my rights as well as my expectations by asking myself, how important is it really? How important is it compared to my serenity, my emotional sobriety? And when I place more value on my serenity, okay, my peace of mind and my sobriety than on anything else, I can maintain them at a higher level, at least for the time being. Yeah, because it's not like you get this idea or I get this idea or I feel, I see this perspective and I grab a hold of it and then it's like I run with it forever. It's like, no, it's like, okay, I see this now. So now I got to let it marinate, within my brain and embrace it, It's always me. Like, I'm the one that needs to change, and release my expectations of other people. It's just, my spiritual path has just been about this truly accepting myself, learning to love myself for who I am and, broken down and rising back up, like seeing myself at all angles and loving myself anyway and showing compassion for myself. And as I learned to show compassion for myself, I've learned to show compassion for others. And, this is trickling into even with my mother, and, but it just keeps going deeper and deeper, my level of understanding and, having a hold of something or, embracing this idea. And then, there are times where I just like, I can't do it. Or can't means won't, like, I just won't do it. I don't want to, it's just too exhausting. And it's like, I'm not perfect, I'm just down here trying to figure it out just the same as everybody else. But, that is what I was guided to, read to you today. They're telling me to read these last two paragraphs again. It says, acceptance is the key to my relationship with God today. I never just sit and do nothing while waiting for him to tell me what to do. Rather, I do what is in front of me to be done, and I leave the results up to him. However it turns out, that's God's will for me. I must keep my magic magnifying mind on my acceptance and off my expectations, for my serenity is directly proportional to my level of acceptance. When I remember this, I can see I've never had it so good. So there you have it. I love you. I hope this helps. And I know it helped me. So anyway, I love you guys. See you soon. Bye.